In Accra, they say beauty is a gift from God. But what happens when someone decides to steal that gift? Not admire it from a distance, not envy it like a decent human being, but actually steal it with a drink, with a fetish priest, with a smile so warm you will never suspect the hand that mixed the poison. This is the story of Abena, the most beautiful girl in her school, in her street, in every room she walked into. But that beauty was cut short. And Akosua, her best friend since primary school, the girl who knew every secret, every dream, every fear. This is a story about jealousy so deep that it hurts, and of karma, patient, thorough, poetic karma that made sure everything stolen was returned with interest. Stick with me as I bring you the full piece of justice, and please like this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so you don't miss out on any future videos that always serves justice. Every secondary school in Accra has one. The girl that stops conversations when she walks in. The girl that teachers unconsciously call on first. The girl whose name boys write in their notebooks when they should be writing algebra. At Accra Girls and Boys Comprehensive, that girl was Abena. She was not arrogant about it. She was genuinely unbothered by her own beauty, which was the thing about Abena that made her both loved and in one specific heart, deeply resented. She walked through school, focused on her books and her grades and the future she had mapped out for herself. Beauty was just something that happened to her. She did not perform it. She did not weaponize it. Guys sent her notes. She filed them away without reading them. Guys stopped her in corridors. She thanked them and kept walking. Guys asked her best friend for her number. Akosua, who was her best friend, requested their number instead, saying she would pass it on to her friend. She collected those numbers with a wild smile and called the boys herself that same evening, flirting with them. When they realized they couldn't get Abena, some stayed with Akosua instead, while others moved on. Akosua was not ugly. She was just ordinary, the kind of face that is pleasant enough when you look directly at it, but disappears from memory the moment you look away. She had spent 9 years standing beside Abena and watching herself become invincible. She smiled through every single second of it. Kwame was a boy who sat 3 rows from Abena in English class. He had liked her since the first week of school. Not the loud performance kind of liking, but a quiet kind that lives entirely in your own chest and never quite finds its way to your mouth. He had composed in his head 47 different ways to walk up to Abena and say something. He had delivered 0 of them. Then his father got a job transfer to Toronto, Canada. The family packed and left before the school term ended. Kwame boarded a plane carrying one undelivered feeling and a class photo where Abena was in the 3rd row and he was in the 5th. He kept the photo for 10 years. He kept the feeling longer. Then Idem arrived. A transfer student. He was new to Accra, tall, easy in his skin, carrying the confidence of someone who had lived in enough places to be comfortable anywhere. He walked into the classroom on his first day and sat down and looked around the room, and his eyes landed on Abena. They stayed there. Abena noticed. Now, this was new. Abena actually noticed. She told Akosua that evening, laughing, slightly embarrassed by her own feeling. That new boy, Idem, I think I like him. Akosua smiled. He's cute, she said. He's really cute. But inside her, something cold settled into place. She had noticed Edem and liked him too. But Edem was not interested in Akosua. Edem was interested in Abena. He walked up to her, which most boys never managed to do, and asked if he could sit with her at lunch the next day. She said yes. They talked. The next day, he bought her lunch. The 3rd day, they were at the library together, reading. Within 3 weeks, they were the couple that the whole school was talking about. The new, handsome transfer student and the most beautiful girl in school. They looked like they were a match made in heaven and had been designed together. Akosua watched all of this from close range. She attended their every interaction as Abena's best friend, the one who was always nearby, always smiling, always part of the picture but never in the center of it. She burned. She burned every day. She burned at lunch, watching Adam look at Abena like she was the only thing worth looking at. She burned at break time, watching Adam make Abena smile. She burned going home alone when Abena went home with someone who adored her. She burned for 3 months. Then she got up one Saturday morning and went to see the fetish priest. He operated from a compound in a quiet part of Accra. Akosua had heard about him from her aunt in a conversation not meant for young ears. She had filed the information away without knowing why. Now she knew why. She told him what she wanted. He prepared the drink, dark, thick, smelling of something the ordinary world had no name for. He told her the terms. Your friend's beauty will leave her. Every man who sees her will be repelled. But he looked at Akosua steadily. The day a man loves her despite what she has become, the curse reverses. Her beauty returns, and it returns back to sender. That is the ugliness. Akosua heard just the first part. She filed the second part, where she found most inconvenient information, somewhere deep, somewhere she did not intend to visit. How do I give it to her? She asked. Mix it into something that she already drinks. She must take it willingly and not with force. Akosua went home. She made sobolo, the hibiscus drink that Abena loved, the one Akosua made for her regularly, the one Abena always accepted without question because it came from her best friend's hands. She brought it to school on a Monday morning. I made your favorite, she said, holding out the bottle with a smile as warm as Hamatan sunshine. Abena took it in both hands. You're the best, she said. She drank it in 4 grateful swallows. You're welcome, Akosua said. 3 days later, Abena woke up and went to the bathroom and screamed. The face in the mirror was not her face. It was a face, right? It was human, it was functional, but there was nothing medically wrong with it. But the beauty was gone the way a light goes when the power cuts. Completely, instantly, with no trace of what had been there before. She pressed her hands against the mirror. She touched her cheeks, her eyes, her jaw. Her hands were shaking. She went to school. The boy who had smiled at her from across the corridor every morning for 4 months looked at her and looked away. The girls who had envied her openly now looked at her with something worse, blankness, as though she had never been remarkable at all. She sat down at her desk. She felt like a ghost in her own body. Adam held on for 2 weeks. He tried. She could see him trying. The effort of a boy who liked the person but was being defeated by what other people were saying. His friends noticed. They asked questions. They made jokes in the way that teenage boys always make jokes, carelessly, with full damage and zero intention. He broke up with her on a Thursday afternoon. He said she had changed, that something was different, that he was truly sorry. He was not sorry enough to stay. He cared more about what Accra Secondary School social world thought of him than he cared about her. A handsome guy like him, with a girl who looked like that, he could not afford it. He would not survive the commentary, so he walked away. Abena sat on a low wall outside the school compound and called Akosua. She was crying so hard she could barely form words. Akosua was at her side in 12 minutes. She held her friend. She stroked her back. She said all the right things in the right order. He doesn't deserve you. He's a fool. You're worth more than this. I'm here. I'm always here. Then she said, let me go and talk to him. I'll find out what happened. Maybe I can fix this. Abena grabbed her hand. Would you? Of course, Akosua said. You're my best friend. She went to Idem's house that evening. He opened the door and looked at her. Abena's best friend. The one who was always around. The one who had always seemed to actually listen when he talked. She sat down. She looked at him with the expression of someone carrying something very heavy and very reluctant. I don't know how to say this, she started. He leaned forward. Abena asked me to come to you, she said. She told me to tell you. She stopped, pressed her lips together. She told me to tell you that you're useless, that you're full of yourself, that you're good for nothing, that she was only with you because you were the new guy and she was just curious. Idem stared at her. Those are her words, not mine, Akosua said. I'm only here because she threatened me. She said if I didn't come to deliver this message, we would cease to be friends. Her eyes filled with tears, genuinely convincing tears, the product of years of practice. I'm so sorry, Idem. She's my best friend and has been so since we were kids. But what she said about you was wrong. You don't deserve any of it. She reached out and patted his arm. He was rigid with anger. She kept her hand on his arm. You know what the sad thing is, she said quietly. You're actually the most handsome guy in that school. And she just threw that out away. She threw gold away. Oh. He looked at her. She held his gaze. She did not look away. Over the next 3 visits, each one was planned. Each one was timed. Each one building carefully on the last. Akosua turned Edem's anger into something she could use. She was warm where Abena had supposedly been cold. She was attentive where Abena had apparently been dismissive. She was there, consistently there, in the specific way that people who want something are always there. Idem was not in love with Akosua like he had been with Abena, but she was not ugly, and she made him feel important, and feeling important for a teenage boy whose ego had just been publicly wounded was enough. They started dating. When Abena found out, she went to Akosua. Akosua was ready. She cried, she apologized, she said she had gone to defend Abena and things had moved in a direction she had not planned. She said Idem had misread her kindness. She said she was so ashamed and she had not known how to face her friend. She said sorry in 12 different ways across 2 hours, and she said every single one of them looking directly into Abena's eyes. Abena forgave her. She kept her as her only friend. She did not know that her only friend had poisoned her drink. She did not know that her only friend was now dating the boy she had cried over on his school wall. She knew that Akosua was there. And when you have been left by everyone else, there is a currency. They graduated secondary school and then they moved on to the same university in Accra. Akosua watched Abena like a security guard watches a vault she has already robbed and needs to make sure that nobody finds. Every time Abena mentioned a guy she thought was interesting, a classmate, a neighbor, a man at the bus stop who had been kind, Akosua materialized with reasons. He's a player. I've heard things about him. He's not serious, Abena. He just wants one thing. Do you really want to go through what happened with Idem again? I love you too much to allow you to be hurt again, no? She always framed it as love, as protection, as the duty of a best friend who had seen her cry on a wall and never wanted to see it again. Abena believed her. She stayed away from relationships. She focused on her studies. When they graduated, Akosua was quick to get a job, but she discouraged Abena from office jobs. Abena, you know how these things work, how these environments are. Colleagues are wicked. They will make your life miserable. I have seen it happen firsthand at my place of work. I think you should get a remote job. It's the same money or maybe even more. There will be no drama, and the best part is that you will get to work from home. It sounded like a great plan, so Abena got a remote job. She stayed at home. She talked to Akosua and to her parents and to almost nobody else. One evening, Abena went to the store to buy some items, and the woman congratulated her on her best friend's upcoming wedding in the assumption that Abena already knew. She did not already know. She went home and sat with her for a long time. Then she called Akosua and requested that they see. When Akosua finally came to see her, breezy, apologetic, citing wedding stress and work deadlines, Abena listened and forgave and asked the question she had been holding carefully. So, who will be your chief bridesmaids? Akosua's face moved through something quickly. Abena, you know I love you. I wish it could be you. I mean, we talked about being bridesmaids for each other when we were kids. But the photos, the aesthetics, my mother has very specific. It's fine, Abena said. I understand. She asked about the bridal train. No. She attended the wedding in a guest seat, third row from the back, and watched Eden, the first boy she had ever loved and cried over, on a school wall. The boy Akosua had stolen, stand at the altar and marry her best friend. She clapped when they kissed. She genuinely wished them well because she was Abena. And that was who Abena had always been. After the wedding, Akosua's calls thinned out, then stopped. When Abena showed up at her door once and Akosua opened it and looked at her friend and looked at the neighbors looking at the difficult face on her doorstep and pulled Abena inside quickly and told her the house was not ready yet for visitors and she would call. She did not call. Abena went home. She sat in her apartment. Remote job, no colleagues, no office, no reason to leave, and she was as alone as a person can be while technically still having a best friend. Akosua was her best and only friend, and now it seems she had lost that too. So she decided to open a Facebook account. She used her old photograph, the one from secondary school, before the Monday morning where everything changed. She told herself it was because she did not have a good recent picture. The friend request came within minutes. Kwame Mensah. She did not recognize the name immediately, but she accepted it anyway. She accepted the request. His first message was 3 lines. Abena, I don't know if you remember me. I sat 3 rows behind you in English class at Comprehensive. My family moved to Canada before the term ended, and I've been looking for you for years. Her mind flashed back. Then she remembered he was the quiet boy, 3 rows back in English class, the one who had always been on the edge of our awareness without ever pushing himself to the center of it. She stared at the message, then she typed back, I remember you. What followed was the kind of conversation that starts at 8 in the evening and ends at 2 in the morning and leaves both people staring at their ceilings afterward, wondering what just happened. They talked about everything, the weather difference between Accra and Toronto. He described Canadian winter with such exaggerated horror that she laughed until her stomach hurt. What he missed about home, the jollof, the noise, the way Accra smells just after the rain, where he had gone to university, what he was doing now, whether the food there would ever come close to his mother's contomere stew. She told him about university, about her remote job, about Accra in the years that he had missed. She did not tell him though about her face. She did not mention the mirror she had stopped looking into. She did not correct the assumption he was making from the profile photo, the laughing girl in the school uniform, still 16 years old, the face that existed before a Monday morning changed everything. They moved from messages to phone calls. His voice was exactly as she would have imagined, steady, warm, carrying both countries in his mouth. One evening, he suddenly asked for a video call. She said her internet was bad. He asked again 2 weeks later. She said he was not feeling well. He did not push, he did not sulk. He said, no problem, feel better, and then he moved on. And she sat with the phone against her chest and felt something she had not felt in 12 years. Wanted. Not her face, not her beauty, just her. The person who remembered what he said and asked follow-up questions and laughed at his jokes because they were actually funny. She was terrified of what could happen when he saw her face. Then he announced he was coming home. His father had business in Accra. Kwame had volunteered to handle it and had not told his father that the real reason he volunteered was a girl who kept declining video calls and whose laugh had become his favorite sound. I'll be there in 4 weeks, he said. I cannot wait to see you. Abena put the phone down. She stared at her reflection in the dark screen. She called Akosua. The phone rang 6 times and went to voicemail. Akosua saw the name flash on her screen and put the phone face down. She was in the middle of bathing her son. She did not have time for Abena's calls right now. She had more important matters like her growing family to deal with. If only she had known what Abena was calling to tell her, she would have dropped her son in the bath and driven across Accra in a wrapper to stop it. But she did not pick up. 4 days passed. Abena also ignored Kwame's calls. On the 5th day, she picked up. I almost booked an earlier flight, he said immediately, half laughing, half serious. Don't ever do that again. I was worried. She closed her eyes. Kwame, she said, I need to tell you something. This is my last call to you. I think we should stop talking. There was silence. Explain, please, he said. She explained. She told him about the morning she woke up and did not recognize her face. She told him about the years of self-hatred. She told him about the mirror she had stopped using because seeing it made her grieve for something she could not get back. She told him, in words that did not fully carry the weight of it, what he felt like to have been the girl everyone stared at and now become the girl everyone looked away from. She heard him breathing on the line. Abena, he said. Yes? I liked you at 15 when you had no idea I existed. I am 30 years old now, and I feel the exact same thing, which tells me it has nothing to do with your fate. A pause. I am still coming, and I am going to show you what I mean. She could not speak. Don't call to say goodbye again, he said. I don't accept it. He came on the date he said. They met at a small restaurant in Osu. He walked in and saw her. He did not pause, he did not flinch, he did not do any of the things she had been bracing herself up for. He walked to the table and sat down and smiled. You look exactly like someone I have been talking to for 6 months, he said. Hi. She burst into tears, not sad tears, the released tears, the kind that come when the blow you have been bracing for never lands, when someone looks directly at you and does not look away. He handed her his napkin. I see through your face to your heart, he said, and your heart is the most beautiful thing I have ever come across. That is what I came for. They sat and talked some more. Then he told her he believed strongly that her facial change was a spiritual problem, and that when he was back home with his family in Accra, before they moved, his mother used to take them to one church with a pastor who prays so deep and sees things only God can reveal. He asked if we could take her to the church. She agreed. The next day, he picked her up and off they went to the church. It was a church in a quiet part of Accra where his mother had taken him to as a boy, a pastor with a reputation for praying through difficult situations. Pastor Kojo was old in the way that men are old when they have seen too much to be surprised by anything. He listened to Abena's story with his hands folded and his eyes closed. When she finished, he was quiet for a full minute. Then he opened his eyes and led them into a short series of prayers. This is spiritual, he said, and it was done by someone very close to you. Abena shook her head. I don't have many close people, she said. I understand, Pastor Kojo said. That's one of the costs of this course. And it also happened that you share a lot of your secrets, Papa Kojo continued. Going forward, do not tell anyone at all about your plans, your relationship, your move, or anything. Especially about your relationship. Not yet. Do not tell anyone anything about it. Just keep everything quiet until it happens. He prayed with them and they left. Kwame held her hand on the pavement outside. Are you alright? She was not alright. She was also for the first time in over 10 years, not alone. Before he flew back to Toronto, Kwame sat in Abena's family sitting room with her parents and asked for their daughter's hand in marriage. Her mother pressed both hands over her mouth. Her father looked at this young man who had flown from Canada, gone to church with his daughter, and was now sitting in their sitting room with honest eyes, and he looked at his daughter who had come home 12 years ago with a changed face and had been shrinking ever since. He said yes before the sentence was fully finished. Not long after Abena's engagement, she learned Akosua had given birth to a second baby girl. Excited for her, she had gone visiting her to help her out. It was also the baby's naming. Akosua noticed the ring at her baby's naming ceremony on her left hand. Simple, gold, unmistakable. Hey, Abena, this ring is fine, oh. Where did you get it? Abena smiled. I did not get it though. I was given. Don't worry, I'll give you the full gist, but not yet. She left. Akosua stood in her sitting room after the guest had gone and paced from the sofa to the window and back. A ring? That was an engagement ring? So someone had looked at Abena and at her face and at everything and still said yes to all of that? which meant the curse was cracking, and this meant that reversal was coming. She drove to the compound where the fetish priest had been. The shrine was gone. In its place was a small church, white walls, a wooden cross above the door. She stood on the pavement and stared. A voice called her inside. Nana Kofi looked up from his table. He was not surprised to see her. He told her what had happened, how God had found him 2 years after she came with her request, how he had stayed in the same building so that people who came looking for the old him will find a new him instead. She then narrated why she came to him. She's about to be free, he said. You know what that means? Akosua's hands were shaking. Fix it, she said. There must be something you can do. There is, he said. Repent of your sins. Confess to God and ask him to have mercy on you. Then go and confess to your friend. Confess to your husband as well and accept what comes after. God may show you mercy on what returns to you. Never, she said. She left. She drove home and called Abena with a voice dripping with honey. She asked about the ring, she asked about the man, she asked so casually, so warmly, and so sweet if Abena could give her his contact so she could personally welcome him into their circle. Abena thought nothing of it. She gave her Kwame's number. Akosua called him on the morning of his departure back to Toronto. She arrived at the airport dressed carefully, composed, carrying years of practice at convincing people of untrue things. She told Kwame things about Abena, terrible things, convincing things, lies wrapped so tightly in adjacent truth that they felt real. Kwame thanked her politely and boarded his flight. For 4 days after Kwame had landed back in Toronto, Abena heard nothing from him. She called, she texted, she sat by her phone in the silence of someone waiting to be abandoned again. The silence she knew from the school wall, from Akosua's unanswered calls, from every person who had decided she was not worth staying for. Then she remembered what Pastor Kojo had said. Tell no one anything about your relationship. Then she prayed. She repented and asked for mercy. She did not pray for her beauty, not even for Kwame, but for the truth to be known and to be enough. On the 5th day, Kwame called. He told her about what had happened at the airport, about Akosua, and about everything she had said. She was convincing, he said. I will not lie to you. For one moment, I nearly believed her. Abena's heart was in her truth. But I've learned to take things to God before I take them anywhere else, Kwame continued. So I prayed. For 3 days, I prayed, and God showed me the truth clearly. He paused. It was Akosua Abena. She is the one who did this to you. The silence that followed was 12 years assembling itself into a different shape. The Sobolo, the consolation visits to Edem, the discouraged relationships, the remote job suggestion, the missing wedding invitation, the door opened just wide enough so the neighbors will not see her face. 12 good years. Every piece of it clicking into place simultaneously. Fast and pray with me for 3 days, Kwame said. I will do it from here, you do yours from there. God told me that he is ready to break this curse. They fasted together across an ocean. They prayed every morning, his voice from Toronto, hers from Accra, meeting somewhere in the middle over the Atlantic. On the 3rd day, Abena went to the market. A woman who had ignored her greetings every week for 3 years greeted her first. Then another woman smiled at her. Then a man at a vegetable stall held her gaze without looking away. She walked home faster than she had walked anywhere in years. She was happy that the prayers had yielded results so fast that people wanted to at least talk to her again. She had bought some items for her hair from the market and wanted to apply them, so she brought out the mirror. She had not looked properly at her own face in the mirror for a very long time. She had trained herself not to, because every time that she did, she grieved for something she could not get back, and grief that size needed to be rationed carefully. She looked. She screamed so loudly that her neighbor knocked on the wall. Then she laughed. Then she screamed again. Then she called Kwame immediately on video call, dropping the phone twice, her hands shaking so badly she could not hold it steady. And when his face appeared on the screen and he saw her, he went completely still. His eyes filled. Abena, he said, just her name. It was enough. Akosua woke up on a Thursday morning to a note on the pillow beside her. Idem's handwriting. Don't let me return to find you in my house. She read it 3 times. She called for her older son to beat him. He came to the doorway, looked at her face, and ran. Not toward her, away from her. The specific terrified running of a child confronted with something that does not match the face he had known his whole life. She went to the baby's room. The baby looked at her and screamed. Then she went to the bedroom mirror. She stood in front of it, and she understood. The reversal had happened. Return to sender. She had been so busy trying to stop it that she had not fully believed that it was real until this moment. This mirror, this face, this bathroom. She screamed. She tried to leave the house. Someone saw her and took a photo of her. Posted it. By evening, the whole of Accra knew. By the next morning, the story had reached everywhere, including Abena, who was on a video call with Kwame, glowing, making plans, when someone sent her a screenshot with the message, "Is this not your friend?" Abena looked at the photo for a long time. She put the phone down. She felt, not satisfaction, but something sadder and more complete than satisfaction. The grief of understanding, finally, the full shape of what had been done to her and by whom. Every year of it, every discouraged relationship, every mirror avoided, every door opened just a crack. She prayed for Akosua, genuinely, with her whole heart, not for the curse to be reversed. That was not in her hands, but for whatever broken and jealous and frightened thing lived inside her friend to find some kind of peace. Then she packed her bags for Toronto. Akosua tried everything. She went back to Nana Kofi. He told her what he had told her before. Repentance, confession, acceptance. There was no other door. She tried other spiritual avenues across Accra, other compounds, other priests. They all told her the same thing in different languages. What was sent had returned. What returns cannot be redirected without the sender's repentance. So she could not repent publicly. She could not confess to Abena. She could not tell Edem, who had come back for the children and looked at her face and said nothing because there was nothing adequate to say, what she had done 12 years ago to the girl he had dated before her. She disappeared from Accra quietly. No announcement, no farewell post, just gone. The neighbors noticed the house was empty. Accra moved on, and Abena landed in Toronto on a Tuesday evening in November, when the trees were bare and the air was cold enough to see her own breath, which she did, laughing, because she had never seen that before in her life. Kwame was at the arrival's gate. He saw her before she saw him. He watched her come through the doors, the girl he had composed 47 opening lines for and delivered 0 of it. And she looked up and saw him, and they stood 10 meters apart for exactly 1 second. Then she walked towards him, and he walked towards her, and the distance between them closed for the last time. His mother cried at the introduction dinner. She's even more beautiful than you described, she told Kwame in Twi, forgetting that Abena also spoke Twi. Abena laughed. Thank you, Mama, she said. The wedding was in Accra 6 months later. Her whole family came. Kwame's family flew in from Toronto. The reception was at a venue in cantonment with fairy lights in the trees and jollof rice that her aunties argued was better than the caterers, and dancing that started at 6 and had not stopped by midnight. Abena danced. She danced the way people dance when they have spent 12 years not dancing, with the full body joy of someone giving back something they thought was gone forever, and intending to use every single bit of it. Her father watched from the family table, his daughter, his beautiful, good, completely unbreakable daughter, back. And that is the story of Abena, the girl who had lost her face and found her future. She was cursed by the person who called herself her best friend. She spent 12 years invisible in a city that had once stopped to stare at her. She prayed on the days when praying felt pointless. She answered a Facebook friend request from a shy boy she had barely remembered, and that shy boy flew across an ocean for her before he had even seen her current face. Because the curse, for all its power, for all the 12 years that he held, had one condition built into it from the very beginning. The day a man loves her, despite what she has become, the curse reverses. Akosua knew this condition, so she spent 12 years making sure that no man ever got close enough to trigger it. But she failed, because you cannot guard against the love that started 15 years ago and never stopped. You cannot intercept a feeling that lived in a boy's chest through secondary school and university and over a decade in Canada and arrived intact across an ocean. Some things are simply stronger than jealousy. Faith is one of them, love is another, and karma, patient, thorough, poetic karma, made sure that the face Akosua stole found its way home. And the face that came home to Akosua in exchange was everything she had spent 12 years trying to prevent. That is why the elders of Accra say, the beauty you steal from someone else will never sit well on your own face. It knows where it belongs. Jealousy does not destroy the person you envy. It builds a prison around you and puts the keys in your hand and watches you lock yourself inside. And the girl you cursed to be alone, God had already designed someone to find her. You were never going to stop that. You were only going to delay it. To everyone watching Karma's Tales Africa, the Akosua in your life is not your friend. She is your mirror, showing you everything she wishes she had. Check what people put in your cup before you drink. Oh, not everyone who makes your favorite drink loves you. And to every Abena sitting alone right now, wondering if anyone will ever see past what the world has decided about you, Kwame is looking for you. He has been looking for years. Do not change your profile picture. Follow Karma's Tales Africa, because karma always finds its way home. Thank you, and subscribe to this channel, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.